Those of you that don't know me, I'm Drew Roberts. I'm an Arakwal Bundjalung man from the far north coast of New South Wales, southern Queensland. Um, I'm I'd just like to pay respect to the Wongal people of the Eora Nation, which is the country that I'm actually on down here within the Sydney Basin area at the moment. When I normally do an acknowledgement of country, I'll actually do it within traditional. And because we're not able to actually have the connection where it's I'm normally done through smoke or through language. So I'll do it in language. Imai marang, miyangan darang, iora gutan bari ditan, nianabu betha, nianabu waro boko, bandunda kaimo mango, iora gutan bari ditan. Marumbu, basically all I said is, this is, hi, how are you going? This is Eora country. It's Eora country from the mountains to the rivers to the sea. It'll always be Eora country. And Marumbu, because I went up on the end of it, it actually means live long and be well, my brothers and sisters. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're going to talk about some of the plants. If you have any questions as we're going through, it's important for you to actually ask the questions of me. I know a large amount in relation to the plants. It's because I'm the youngest of 6 boys, and my family would actually reach that pain threshold through the school holidays with so many kids in the house. We were actually sent to the beach to go camping, and we learned very, very quickly that if we came back from the beach too early, then we were going to be put to work. So honestly, I learned a lot of this kind of stuff to try and get out of work. I remember one year we had to paint the inside and the outside of the house. I got loaned out to Uncle's banana plantation once for about 2 weeks. And once you've carried water up a 60-degree gradient in a bucket up a mountain, you learn to stay out bush. So a lot of this stuff is literally common sense. First Nations are predominantly matriarchal, and I've learned very, very quickly that women will never ever utilize or do something in the hard way. And a lot of the time, the plants and being on country will have multiple usages. So they'll have a bush food component, and they'll also have a utilitarian component, or they might have a medicine component. No one resource has one purpose. It mightn't be the purpose 100% of the year around, but you will be able to use the resources in a way that helps be able to feed you, look after you, and care for you. All right, so really quick. So I'm the founder and CEO of Shared Knowledge. We run cultural education and experiences for the general public. Of course, at the moment during COVID, we're actually shut down. We normally run at the Royal Botanic Gardens, and this bush food and medicine component that we're going to be doing today, I've actually translated it over into a morning tea experience for people, a lunch experience, a cocktails and canapes experience, and a dinner experience. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be going through and using today can actually make cocktails or make morning tea components or make drinks and food and everything like that. really, really simple. I was always taught that you don't use more than 4 ingredients when you're actually cooking, because a lot of the time our traditional actually have a very, very strong flavor. Okay, so can everyone see the picture okay within this one? So Lemandra, everybody's probably used to seeing Lemandra within an urban setting. A lot of the times it's actually planted within gardens or medium strips or within parks. So it's a very long, it normally grows on the eastern seaboard, but there are other species that will go across into the rest of Australia. What I'm actually looking for with this plant in a really specific way is actually the leaves. The leaves give a very beautiful, so if I actually pick you up and I take you over to the Lemandra that exists within can you actually see the Lemandra just here? Growing in, what I'm actually doing is pulling it out and I'm gathering this stuff. So I'll come back down and I'll sit you down. So you want the inside part of the leaves, not the outside leaves growing. The ones that you actually want are these young ones that will actually go from a creamy white color down to the dark green of the actual leaf itself. I was taught to use this when I actually walk on country. So we actually eat this part and we actually chew it as you walk on country. What Lemandra actually has is a special enzyme within it that ensures that you never dehydrate within the mouth. So, you know, like when you wake up first thing of the morning and you've got that dry mouth, or you're walking in a hot kind of situation and your mouth will actually go very, very dry. This actually ensures that you don't. So this is the one that enables you to walk long distances within. So see it, scientists have now actually recognized the importance of this. So it ensures that you never dehydrate and that you never get thirsty when you walk on country. So I actually use this smaller bit as well. I'll actually cut it up and use it when I'm actually making like a tabbouleh or a salad or that kind of stuff. It does have the flavor of the plant itself will actually change depending on what's growing over the top of it. So it'll go from an asparagus to a spring onion to a celery kind of flavor. So once you've learned to identify the plants that will actually change the flavors within it, it's a really, really, really important plant. This is the plant that also, when we get the leaves and the leaf itself, my aunties will actually strip it and make it into long tendrils. Let this dry, and then this plant is the one that's actually used for weaving. So this one is a very, very, very strong plant, especially when it's dry. I don't like to weave with it when it's green because you'll end up with 1,001 paper cuts. So unless you like that, I wouldn't do it. So you collect it while it's green, and once you've gotten the shoot off of it and you're able to eat it, then you actually use this to create the baskets and the mats and the twine when you're actually in country. Okay, There is another important part to the plant as well, which is actually the seeds. This plant is the plant that creates damper. So the seeds, when we actually collect the seeds, they're ground down and it makes a paste, and it's the one that actually makes the flat Johnny cakes from up home. So it's not like a damper in the kind of sense that you're probably used to. It has an interesting flavor to it as well. I quite like it because it's got more of a nutty kind of a flavor to the grain. When I was actually collecting this plant growing up, my aunties would make us collect it all by hand. I didn't realize what they were actually doing is because it is so labor intensive to be able to get the kids to actually go and collect it. And then auntie used to make us open it with our fingernails to get the grains out on the inside. With so many boys in the family, it was a way of keeping us busy, actually. Auntie didn't teach until I was about 21, 22, that if you soak the whole grain in water and leave it in the sun, it'll actually open itself up and spit the seeds out. So what they were actually doing was teaching us to do the collection of it, but also keeping us busy at the same time. It's a great one for you to be able to use. It has I'm pretty sure it has a very low gluten index with it as well. So it's a great one that you don't feel bloated when you're going in and using. So really quick, has anyone got any questions on Lemandra? So you can see that Lemandra will feed you, it'll give you medicine, and it will give you utensils and weaving. So it's one of those plants that, and a lot of people don't, because it's so easy to grow as well. That's why it's in the middle of the roads. My uncles teach that if you can kill this, there's something wrong with you. Because it's a plant that will grow in yellow sand, in black sand, in the riverbeds, on the mountaintops, in the plains. There's so much of it around. This traditionally was actually farmed and cultivated in the flat settings. The one thing though with it, and if you want to go and collect it in situ out within the bush, you need to be very mindful and make a noise when you're actually going out, because the red-bellied black snakes love this plant. Because of the way it grows, it actually creates tunnels underneath, and the red bellies will actually be within that for the cooler, moist situation within spring and summer. So if you're looking to go and collect it, think in that way that you need to make a noise to scare the snakes off. Okay. Sorry, was there any? No. So Sonia White has actually sent through and asks, is there a specific species of Lemandra to look for? No, they all do exactly the same. The variegated, the dwarf versions, and the version that you're probably used to seeing. A lot of people will get it confused as well because the color of the leaf will change. And so they look like different species. It's literally, it comes down to how much sunlight that plant's actually getting. So if it's getting minimal sunlight, then the leaf will be darker. If it's getting a lot of sunlight, then the leaf will be more of a brighter green. Cool. Okay. So I'll go to the next one. But nobody else has any questions in relation to the Lemandra? You're all good? Okay. Okay, the next one that you probably, and everybody's heard of this one. This is the new superfood thing that the Australia is actually growing a lot of now, which is lemon myrtle. Lemon myrtle is a plant that has so many usages to it. So it has so many usages to it and so many purposes that you're gonna, if you're able to grow it, I would definitely suggest that you grow it. But be aware that when it does grow, it actually grows as a large tree. A lot of people think it's quite a small plant, and it can be, and it doesn't have. It's so lemon myrtle or Bacchausia or ironwood. It's an actual ironwood tree. It has a very, very, very strong potency to the leaves. So normally when you actually collect, you have different sizes of the leaves and the different consistency. So the younger leaves will be a lot more tender. When I actually collect it, I grab it off, and you see the leaf and the little stem that's actually on it. I take that stem off. Okay. If you leave the stem on and you want to be able to create a tea, or you want to be able to do a grind it down into a dry spice, this will actually create a soapy scum. So you get rid of it. Okay. So you just want this leaf in the way that it is. I actually use this in so many different ways. I use, when people come through and do the Bush Foods morning tea, they'll actually have a lemon myrtle hot tea with it. If you want to be able to use it when you're doing, and you want to use it fresh, you need to be mindful of it. So you bruise it and then you put it into the teapot or into your cup, and you let it steep. While it's actually steeping, what it's actually doing, so if you're using it fresh, it's a great one to actually deal with any stomach issues. So if you've got any bloating or cramping or any of that kind of stuff, this is a great one for you that my aunties actually used to use as a cleanse. But that's with the fresh leaves. Okay. I actually boil it and we'll put it into a large pot, and in a 10-litre pot, I'll put maybe 10 leaves, and then I boil it to a rapid boil and I let it go cold. It looks like black tea. It tastes like lemon, but it'll have the tannins of black tea. So, when you're drinking black tea, you can actually have that tannin flavor to it. So what I do is I let it go cold, and then I boil it to a rolling boil, a rapid boil. Again, if you boil it the second time, it'll actually remove the tannins out of it. So it looks like black tea, but tastes like green tea. Okay. So that one, when I actually use that, I've done that for holiday school programs or my family. The kids absolutely love it. In the 10 litres, the way that I normally do it is I'll put honey myrtle in with it. Honey myrtle, because lemon myrtle isn't the only flavour it actually comes in. It comes in 4 different flavours. It'll come in lemon, cinnamon, aniseed, and honey. The honey is actually used as you would stevia, but it doesn't have the aftertaste of stevia. So it gives you the sweetness without that weird kind of flavor at the end of it. This was also ground down into a pulp, ground down fresh into a poultice. And it was placed on my chest if I had any chest issues or cold or flu or any of that kind of stuff. It's a great antibacterial, and so it's got that purpose as well. My aunties, when they're making the tea for the kids and all that kind of stuff, because they will go absolutely crazy for it. I made 30 litres and it was gone in half an hour with kids. They will go absolutely crazy for it. If you do it while after the leaf is dry, you won't have that issue around the medicine stuff. So if you use it green, it'll help with bloating and cramping. If you use it while it's dry, it'll be done in that kind of way. When my aunties are making the tea, though, they actually will retain about 200 mils and then allow it to boil even further down. And then they put that into a spray bottle and they spray themselves. And it actually helps with mosquitoes, flies, and sandflies. It'll keep them away from you. The real reason, because I didn't grow up with this in food. I grew up this within my bath water. This was actually placed in my bath water because it's actually got the antimicrobial and antibacterial properties to it. And it removes, how do I say this in a nice way? It removes the smell of teenage boys. So that body odor and that glandular kind of smell, this will actually get rid of. So if you're looking for a very simple plant that if you want to grow, it's so easy to grow this, but it has so many usages. You can use it for food, you can use it for drink, you can use it for medicine, you can use it for making your life easier. So if you are living down within the Sydney area, and I know a lot of people have difficulty with growing a large tree, this tree can get up to about 20 to 30 meters tall. If you want to grow it in a confined space, you need to ensure that it can't get through. So either grow it in a pot or a raised garden bed, and ensure that that garden bed can't get into further. So put the garden bed on concrete or bitumen, and then that will actually stunt the growth of it. I have some within a garden bed and they're only about 6 foot tall, and then I just hedge it, and they have remained that way for about 5 years. So you can actually grow it within a confined space. Or honestly, Sydney City Council and a lot of the shire councils down here have actually planted them in the nature strips or within the local parks and gardens. Go and collect a leaf, or grab one leaf and smell it. You will smell the very, very strong lemon flavour to it. It has a high potency. Okay, any questions around lemon myrtle? I realise I went through a lot then with lemon myrtle, but it's such a useful plant. Any questions?
I was just wondering, you mentioned the green leaves is for bloating and cramping, and the dry leaf, what was that one for again?
So the dry leaf, so when I use the dry leaf, so once I actually pinch it off, and honestly, all I do is I grab a branch and I hang it in and put it into the kitchen, in the window kind of thing, and let it go dry, and then I pick it off, and then I just put those leaves into, you can use a spice grinder, I use a NutriBullet, and then just put it into the NutriBullet, blitz it down into a fine powder, and I actually make lemon myrtle cheesecakes with it. I make melting moment cookies with it. The same way that you would use a rind of a lemon or a lime, or you would use lemongrass, this does the same thing.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a really, really versatile plant for you to be able to have. Even down with that antibacterial and that kind of stuff, I'll grab the green leaf and I'll, when you're rolling socks to put them into the drawer, actually roll the green leaf in with the socks, and then the smell will actually go through the socks. It used to get used in the washing machine a lot when I was actually growing up, because it will remove that smell. Sorry, 6 boys, you can imagine the smell. So it's a really good one. Cool. Anyone else? Don't be afraid to ask questions around it, because you've only got me for a very small amount of time. Hang on, so there's a chat. Is lemon myrtle ever used in ceremony? Different nations, because lemon myrtle normally, traditionally, it would start around Port Macquarie and go north from there. So it's more of a rainforest kind of plant. We don't use it specifically within ceremony, from where I come from, but that doesn't mean that other nations won't. I know when my uncles from down in the Warramai Nation go camping, they actually throw it onto the fire, and it'll actually keep the mosquitoes away from them while they're in the fire. But it does create a lot of smoke if you're doing it while it's green. So you'll be coughing a little bit. But if you're in the swamp or the lagoons, the Mile lakes and all that kind of stuff, you're going to have a lot of mosquitoes. So it's a catch-22 kind of thing. Cool. So everyone's good with lemon myrtle? Perfect. Okay. Have a go at it. I will literally collect a lot of mine in the parks and the gardens and all that kind of stuff. I've got about 50 of them growing within my area, but I've got the space to be able to do that. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. Okay, river mint. It's mint. It's a native mint. I mean, there's no two ways about it. River mint will actually come in 3 different kinds. It's called river mint because it actually grows on the river, on the banks and within the moist areas. So normally 9 times out of 10 for me, it's actually associated with certain kinds of plants and certain kinds of locations. For me, it actually grows under tea tree, because tea tree will only ever grow where there is a fresh water supply. It mightn't be above the ground, but there is water there, because tea trees need a wet root. Tea tree is the tree that actually defines my country. So because, have you ever noticed the water around in a tea tree country? It's actually a dark kind of brackish water. That actually comes from the tannins of the tea tree. So tea tree will change the color of the water, which will then change the color of the earth. So tea tree actually defines black sand country. Now, when I see a tea tree growing, it tells me, and there's only tea tree growing there, it tells me there's fresh water, but it's below the ground. When I see tea tree and she oak growing together, there is fresh water, but it's above the ground. So you can actually drink it or be able to actually use it in that kind of way. So if you ever go in the bush, that's going to be a really good point for you. Now, this plant will actually, because it requires that wet foot, it'll grow around the tea tree. There is two different kinds. There's this one that you can see here now, and this one. Okay, so this is the one that we normally use, but this other one, so this is the one with the broader leaf and the brighter green, is the one that we use more for food within. So it's actually used a lot within salads. It's used with fish and all of that kind of stuff. That's the one that you can actually eat because it's not as woody as a stem as this one. So there are multiple different mints, just the same way there's a difference between a spearmint, a peppermint, all of that kind of stuff. This mint that's actually on the screen at the moment is actually used more within, if you want to be able to make a tea. So I will actually use it with drinks more so. I take the leaves off and allow them to dry, and this is the one that I actually use more within the spices as well, because it does have a stronger potency with it. When I was growing up, and I was one of those kind of kids that actually, if you're one of those kids that have a lot of tooth issues or anything like that, they actually grind it, they will actually pound it down into a very, very fine, like a pulp, and then you place that on your toothache, and it'll actually remove the pain of the toothache. So, you know, like how within other cultures they might use clove oil or something like that, the mint will actually do the same thing. So when you're going in and you're having a with this, the same way that you would use mint or bit. So the softer leaf will be used more like a Vietnamese mint, and then this one with the smaller, harder leaf will be used more as a spearmint kind of a circumstance. It's a beautiful plant. It's one that has a very, very strong potency to it. Most of our stuff in Australia is actually either stronger or a lot stronger with the smell and the taste around it. So this is a good one for me when I'm actually cooking whole fish, or I'm going in and I'm using within seafood. And I want to just be able to take the small leaves off of it. So if you have a look, very small leaves. And I normally put the small leaves in with the oil, and then the mint will actually flavor the oil before I actually start any of my seafood stuff. Okay, so any questions around river mint?
I was just curious around that when you said it will help with tooth pain. Is there a plant in that was used traditionally for kind of like cleaning the teeth?
Cleaning teeth?
Yeah.
Charcoal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you chew the charcoal, and then you'll have white teeth and clean teeth. There are some plants that you can get the pulp and do the kind of thing with. I normally use the middle part of Lemandra when I'm actually using, and then I'll actually chew this afterwards. So it's doing the cleaning, and this is giving me the minty fresh breath for me to be able to, yeah.
Thank you.
So this one that I've got now, so Kylie's actually put up and said that she loves cooking with native thyme. So this one that I'm actually I'm holding now that I call mint is also named native thyme. So depending on the areas and where it's actually going to grow, there's about 6 different species of mint. And this is the thing, when you're going out and you're doing within, the Latin names for thing or the way that it's named isn't necessarily the way that a lot of the mob will actually call it. So, oh, it's mint. This is mint, this is mint, this is mint. They don't actually do that differentiation between, oh, this is the freshwater mint, or this is the saltwater mint, or this is the each country, with the exception of the desert, had the mint. So in those country areas, so when I go in and I use the this one, it goes well with a lot of, how do I say it? It'll go well with a lot of Mediterranean dishes, and it'll go well with a lot of Asian dishes. So if you want to be fancy and use this one actually grows really, really well in a pot as well. Just make sure that you keep it with that little bit of a dampness. If it dries out, you're done. Okay. Very good. Okay. This mint is my favorite mint. So it looks a lot more like the Thai mint. I love it. All right. So Aniseed Myrtle. Aniseed Myrtle is again, it's a myrtle. I'll be honest with you, I don't particularly like it, but I don't like the taste of licorice or aniseed. It goes back to one of the desserts my aunties used to make it, which was not nice. But Aniseed Myrtle has a very, very strong licorice and the aniseed smell and flavor to it. This is the one that's normally used to be able to cut with the medicine. So most of our medicine plants have a very astringent kind of flavor to it. So, for example, when my aunties would use the stinging nettle to make the tea for me to drink as a child, because I had arthritis in the hands as I had like juvenile arthritis. And if you use the mint, sorry, not the mint, if you use the stinging nettle, and you need to use the tap root on the bottom and the leaves and dry it, and then they actually steep it and put it into a tea, and you drink the tea, it's foul. It's yuck. Okay, so this is probably in my mind why I don't like the flavor of it, because I associate it with medicine. But this will actually cut that horrible flavor and actually give it a little bit of a sweetness, but still tastes like, did anyone grow up with that cough medicine that tasted kind of like licorice? Yeah. So in my mind, the same kind of thing. But that stinging nettle got rid of, it helped with the swelling and the pain around arthritis. And then this made it more palatable for it to be able to be ingested. So the same way that you want to be able to make, so I actually make aniseed panna cottas with it. So I'll actually take the leaf off in the same way that I do with the lemon myrtle, and I dry it, and then I grind it down into a very fine powder. NutriBullet is my new best friend, seriously, because it does all of the hard work for me that I actually didn't like growing up with their aunties having to do. So you can actually use this green, but also dry. The green is normally made into a tea, And my aunties use this a lot more with the gamey and meats when they're actually cooking as well. So a lot more of the kangaroo kind of stuff. They'll actually use the green leaves to be able to help with that, because it actually will soften the meat as well. But when you're going in and you're using it in that dried form, because of the strength of it, it's a great one. You only need a tablespoon for me to be able to make a panna cotta. For me to be able to make cookies, it's a good one for you to be able to make cookies out of as well. And my aunties actually stipulate when I go home that I have to bring home the Aniseed Myrtle sponges with a wattle seed cream. I had to learn how to cook growing up, but I'm the youngest of 6 boys, so that comes par for course. And my specialty was desserts. So I was going back to, while I was studying at university, I was also going to TAFE to learn how to do desserts and bakery and all of that kind of stuff. So that was you're good at it, so therefore you go in and do that. It's interesting when I go home, because when I go home to country now, because my auntie's actually like, how do I say this? There was more sponges and cheesecake in the car than there was people. You go home and I, because it's my skill set and that kind of stuff, if I go home and I don't show up with a baked lemon myrtle cheesecake or a aniseed myrtle sponge, I'm in trouble, kind of stuff. But it's one of those plants that you need, and it doesn't grow as big as the lemon myrtle. So if you do a comparison with the leaf, for example, so this one's more of a harder leaf, and it's actually more of a matte. This one is more of a gloss. So, and it curls under on itself, so it looks a little bit like a ficus. When you're walking anywhere and you see a leaf that looks like this, just pick it, one leaf, and smell it. That's the surest way. Aniseed myrtle and lemon myrtle are planted in the footpaths within the inner city. So, I mean, I had to do a gig in Petersham, and I was able to find it within Petersham, and just growing in the bitumen footpath next to the street. It's very, very easy for you to be able to cultivate and grow. Any questions on the aniseed myrtle? No? Anybody like aniseed? Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could actually love it. It's a thing that it's either a love or hate kind of thing. But most of our native foods will either be a love or hate, because they're very, very strong in their flavors and their potencies with it. Okay, so we're going to hit on one that's called pig face. Has anyone ever seen this growing in situ before? Where do you actually see it growing?
I live on the beach on the Central Coast. It is all over the sand dunes. It's everywhere. So I've actually tried the fruit on this, and it's delicious.
What is the flavor that you get out of the fruit?
It reminds me of a grape, but I reckon it tastes heaps better than a grape. It's sweeter. I really liked it.
See, up where I come from, it actually has more of a strawberry
Okay.
So if you leave it sitting on the plant longer, so the darker the color, the better.
Yeah.
So the fruit, so if you can see the fruit here, there's two different ones. There's a green one and there's a dark red one.
Yep.
The dark red one will give you more of a strawberry kiwi flavor, and the immature one will give you more of that grape, like a green grape kind of a flavor.
Yeah.
It's my family used to joke it's called pig face because kids go absolutely stupid for the thing, and they make pigs out of themselves. If you have a look at the inside of the fruit, it looks like a little bit like a kiwi, and it's got the seeds on the inside like a kiwi, so the texture is kind of similar. It is very, very sweet when it's that darker color, but it will still have the salt spray on it because we're taught to suck it and pull it back like that. So it's like eating, I don't know. So you don't want to eat the outside skin of it. You just want to squeeze out the center part. If you eat the outside of it, it will give you a little bit of an aftertaste with it. My family actually make a lot of jams with it. It's a really simple one. It will go to mush though, so it doesn't actually hold its texture or consistency. Honestly, when I do the cocktail events or the any of that kind of stuff, I actually have pickled this and it goes on to the cheese plates. So when I'm actually making the macadamia cheese and the kangaroo salami, this goes on with it. I also use the leaf as well. The leaf is a really simple kind of leaf. It looks a little bit like, when you break it, it looks a little bit like aloe vera, but it doesn't have that sticky texture to it. It's got a high chlorophyll within it, so it's got like a succulent thing. We actually collect it, and when we collect it, we will break it off and we'll twist. So if I pick you up and I take you over to here, within Gunawira, you see it? Sorry, someone's going to have to talk to me. I can't see.
We can.
Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Yep. What we do is we'll grab it and pinch it and twist. When you twist, what I'll actually do is leave the center string behind. And because they've just watered here, it's not necessarily going to do. But can you all see that center just here? There's a little tiny center vein. Use that end of the plant. Now, this is one of those plants that is really, really useful for you to be able to use again. If you have lighter skin, you actually collect this and you squeeze it. And if you can see, it's got a lot of juice that's actually coming out of it. It's going all over the computer, but anyway. So you actually squeeze it and you make that juice come out and you rub it on your skin. It ensures that you never get sunburn. So when you're going to the beach, Susan, my family will actually use it if you got that lighter skin, that you'll actually just go that little bit bronzy, but you won't burn. Does that make sense? Yeah.
That's great to know, because we've got a lot of it. I'll be using it.
Yeah. It's something that's so simple to be able to use. Of course, you're going to have to reapply once you go in the water and all that kind of stuff, because it's not going to stay on your skin. But it's a good one for you to be able to use on your face a lot of the time. It's when you go in and you're walking along the beach and all that kind of stuff, and you can't find the Lemandra, look for this and you suck it. Okay, it'll give you the moisture for you to be able to do. Don't chew, just suck. Okay. It's got an interesting flavor to it. But when you go in and you're using it as part of, yeah, sorry, Graham's just doing something for me. So you can actually suck it as you walk. When I collect it as well, I'll actually twist it and pull, and you see that little tiny, there's a little center vein there. These ones here are a little too damp for me to be able to use, but you want to twist it and it'll leave that center vein on the actual plant itself. And then you'll come away with this. And what I do is I steam it and you eat it like a bean. So the reason you take, you know, like when you're doing green beans and you have to string the green beans so it doesn't end up in your teeth, same thing. I use this a lot when I'm actually at the beach and with fish. So it's like the vegetable that goes with the fish kind of thing. So it's a really simple, very useful plant. It'll give you the moisture when you walk on country. It'll shut the kids up and give them a feed because they'll go crazy for the fruit. You can also, it'll help you with your beauty regime and looking after yourself as you're walking on country. And then it'll feed you. Something that we see everywhere. This is why I laugh all the time. I mean, I can get a feed anywhere. I took a group to Hyde Park and they collected and made their own morning tea with the stuff that actually grows within Hyde Park. A lot of the time when because we're so used to seeing it, but we don't know the medicinal or the food values or any of that kind of stuff that's actually growing within. So now that it's actually changed season and we're now in spring, you'll start to see the flower coming out, and it's normally a purple or a pink flower on the eastern seaboard. Once that flower has actually been germinated, the flower then becomes the fruit. So if you want to see a lot of the fruit, you need to go and germinate or get some bees to be able to go and do. And then they take about 4 weeks, 5 weeks for it to become into for the fruit. So normally towards the November, December, height of summer kind of thing is when you're actually going to eat a lot more of the fruit. Okay. Any questions on pig face? You're good? So what do you?
True. Can you just pick the plant and eat it straight away, or?
No.
No.
You can suck it and it'll give you that that moisture, but you don't eat the outside until it's been cooked. Yeah. Otherwise you'll be running to the Jillawa a lot. It'll make you go to the bathroom. Yeah. Sorry. For those of you that don't know what Jillawa actually means. Kylie's actually asked the question between pigface and kakala. I'm not too sure what kakala looks like. I'll have a look and do a little bit of a search. Yeah. So anyone else have any other questions? Kakala. Sorry, I'm just doing a really quick search. You gotta love Google. Okay. Anyone know what this is? Kakala is pig face. Sorry. Kakala is just another way of saying pig face. So that's what I mean. You're going to have an English version, you're going to have an Australian name, a traditional name, and then a Latin name to plants. Yep. So Sonia and Kylie got it right. This is Davidson Plum. Okay, this is like lemon myrtle. This is going to be the next big thing. There are so many companies out there that are actually making this into gin at the moment, which I find hilarious because it doesn't taste like Davidson Plum when it's actually made into the gin, because it's the flavors from the other ingredients are actually overpowering the Davidson Plum. The easiest way that I learned how to be able to use Davidson Plum was to actually go and collect. Now you collect from the trunk. Well, really, you should be collecting from the ground. Once the fruit, you see the fruit, how it's growing and it's actually got a bluish tinge to it. You need to wash the fruit before you eat it. If anything's blue within Australia, leave it alone, or it needs to be processed. So if any of the fruit is blue or any animal is blue, walk the other way and get away from it. The way I normally equate it, think about it, blue bottle, blue ring octopus, cassowaries. They come at you, okay? And they're kind of aggressive. Anything with a blue to it will either harm you or hinder you in country. So I will actually collect it from the ground. If it's on the ground, it is sweeter. But Davidson Plum is never, ever sweet like a plum. The way I normally equate it, it's like a warhead lolly. So it's sweet for about 2 seconds, and then the sour taste actually comes forward. And it's one of those sour tastes that make you do that, that pucker kind of a thing with it. It's a very, very, very versatile fruit. It's actually got a it's a great one for you to be able to use because of that sour tartness kind of stuff. If you like that balance when you're going in and using, and with I use it with a lot of strong cheeses when I'm actually doing stuff. So that cheddar, and I use it also with a lot of like tea tree smoked cheddar and cheeses when I'm going in and using. You can actually turn the inside of it into a jam or a jelly. I actually, and then the skin, when you take the skin off and you've actually dried your Lemandra, the skin will actually dye the Lemandra into that beautiful pinkish blush color. So you can eat the fruit as well as use the skin for you to be able to go in and so to go in and dye your weaving. I will dry it as well. So Sonia actually came up with a really good idea to make it into protein balls and date balls. I use it a lot with coconut and dark chocolate when I'm actually going in and I'm using it. So I will use the actual, I'll make it into that jam, but it's quite a tart jam. And then I actually use it in with a lot of dark chocolate kind of thing. So if I'm making a dark chocolate cheesecake, the Davidson Plum is actually what goes over the top of it as well. If you want to go and find this in the bush, be very mindful of it because it is a rainforest plant, but the cassowaries will fight you for it. Okay, so I got chased a couple of times. So yeah, you learn how to run through the forest with going and doing this one. When I was actually going and collecting it, I thought it was going to be made into the jams and that kind of stuff with my family. My auntie was actually making it into a homemade gin. It's a really, really versatile one. I actually will cut the, and I will allow this to steep when I'm actually making sangria. When I'm actually making a red wine sangria, I'll put this in with some roasted wattle seed and then allow it to sit overnight. And then it's a beautiful sangria on a hot day. It's a very, very simple plant. I use this more than I use lemon to squeeze over seafood because it'll get that sourness and tartness, but with a little bit of sweetness attached to it as well. So this is the one that when I serve barramundi, for example, because I don't like the flavor of barramundi, but I'm a saltwater person. I'm not a freshwater person. So I won't eat fish from the river. I eat fish from the ocean. So because has anyone ever tasted that difference in the flavor between a saltwater and a freshwater fish? No? Okay. It tastes muddy to me. It tastes like dirt more than because they're not as clean to my mind from where I come from. So I use this over the top to cut through that flavor of those river fish. Okay. So any questions around Davidson Plum? It's got so many usages. Again, it's something that a plant that you're going to know. It's so easy to grow. I mean, we planted here last year at Gunawira, and it's 3 times the size as what it was. And once you plant it, it will probably take about 3 to 4 years for it to actually start fruiting. Yeah, saltwater barramundi is, so Sonia's actually put a thing in to say around saltwater barramundi is beautiful, but not river barramundi. It's the same fish, okay? It's just that it's in a different stage of its life. So when the wattle is actually flowering for the 3rd time for me, that tells me the fish have come out of the rivers and been in the ocean long enough to get the black weed and the dirt out of them so they don't taste like that muddy kind of flavor. And what it is when the barramundi is actually in the river, they're one sex, and then when they're in the ocean, they're another sex. They actually transition. So you want the female fish that's actually in the ocean. So wait for the wattle to flower at in around June, July, and then go fishing. Cool. No questions around Davidson Plum? I'm just conscious of the time we are going over. I have one more for you to do really quick. Bum, bum, bum. Warrigal spinach or warrigal greens or warrigal. Okay? Has more vitamins and minerals in it than English spinach or kale. It is a lot easier to grow. I think here at Gunawira, we collected a very small, when we started growing the bush food garden for the bubs, mums and bubs here. It's a plant that was actually about this big, and now it's actually taken over probably about a 4-meter area. It's a very easy ground cover for you to be able to grow, and it's very easy for you to be able to utilize and collect. Normally, Suzanne, do you see this growing at the beach as well, along with the pig face?
Now that I see it, and I have heard of warrigal greens before, but now that I'm looking at it, I actually think it is mixed between it. So I'm going to go up after this and have a look. And yeah.
So at the moment, right, it's actually flowering. So you don't pick warrigal straight away and eat it straight away. So when I collect it, if I show, just turn it around. So the same way that I collect the lemon myrtle and all that kind of stuff, and I pinch it off, and I've left the stalk still on the runner, because it grows as a runner. It doesn't grow as a, so the root for it might be further back over. I've seen this grow in a 15-meter run. Sometimes I take this leaf and then I wilt it in a dry pan. Or you can use oil if you like, but I normally just use it in with. Here at Gunawira, we actually wilted it down with some the native thyme and some garlic, and then mixed it in with ricotta, and that made the filling for spanakopita. Really, really simple. I mean, a sheet of frozen pastry, puff pastry, wilt this down. I grew up with this. This was the vegetable that I grew up with a lot, because it's so nutritious and so many vitamins and minerals. It's great for it to be able to use within any of your dishes. I literally even wilt this down and then I put it into the freezer and freeze it. You know, like how you buy that frozen spinach? And then my cousins put this into their juices and smoothies and all of that kind of stuff. It'll help you lose weight, basically. The reason I pick it in that way, I pinch it off and collect it. I don't strip it off. You see the difference? If I strip it off, I'm going to kill the runner. If you pick the leaves off, then that runner is going to be able to give you another 3 or 4 crops of it with. At the beginning of winter, we normally cut it back really, really hard, and then in the summer it actually comes up. It comes up with a cut it back, and then it'll grow more. It's probably the easier way to say it. Sorry, I'm trying to think. I've got my auntie's voice in my head, because this is the one that is so used and so versatile when you're going in and using it. Very, very easy to grow, very easy to find. Do wilt it because it's like any spinach, it needs to be done in that kind of way. Or if you don't, when I actually use it, I also use it, say I'm cooking a whole fish, I'll put the warrigal spinach on the inside of the fish before it goes into the fire or into the oven, and I'll put mermaid's necklace with it. Has anyone ever seen mermaid's necklace? Mermaid's necklace is that seaweed that washes up on the beach that the kids grab and pop at each other, and it kind of squeezes the water out. The reason I cook it, so when I cook, I normally cook it wrapped in Guymere lily and then wrapped in tea tree. I'm heating the fish. The heat from the heat will actually burst the mermaid's necklace, or Neptune's necklace, sometimes you'll hear it called. It'll actually burst it, and then it salts and steams the fish from the inside. So it's another way that makes your life a little bit easier. And then there's your vegetable already wilted and cooked on the inside of the fish while you're actually going in and doing it as well. So very, very simple. Yeah, if you don't wilt it and you eat it, a lot of it, you'll end up with very, very, very strong cramps. Good one for you to be used in stir fries, and however you use English spinach or however you use spinach, this is a great one. Okay, any questions around warrigal? You're all good? So normally when you see warrigal growing, it looks like that. This is a small version. It will go from part shade to full sun. Normally when you see it growing in situ on country, it's actually growing on the northern end of any of the beaches. And it normally likes a rock overhang, so it needs that moist kind of conditions as well. So it's from a part shade kind of a circumstance. Sorry. The joy of being in the city, no? All right. Any question? Any questions? You're all good with this stuff? Okay. I want to thank you. I mean, this is a great opportunity for you to be able to do. Sorry. Somebody must have broken lockdown. So anyone have any questions? You're all fine. Gunawira had their bush food thing here. This is enough for this area here, and the stuff that they're growing here would be enough to feed a family of 4 quite easily. Yes, so Mel has actually put through and said that warrigal green is great as pesto. I use warrigal green and bunya nut. So I'll make a warrigal green bunya nut pesto. I also will juice down the warrigal green, and when I'm making my pasta, I use the juice from the warrigal greens to be able to make the fancy different colored pasta and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So if anybody would like a Gunawira and I have actually, we've done a little cookbook around some of the stuff. I would get in contact with the admin here at Gunawira and ask that if you want to be able to sorry. Sonia is sending, oh, it's Susie, by the way. Oh, okay. Well, I'm Charlotte, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so we've actually done some very simple recipes around all of the stuff that's actually growing here within the gardens. We've done it for breakfasts and dinners, and they're very simple recipes that mums can actually do with children to get the kids involved in it. I learned all of this stuff by being on country and by being with my family. So if you got the opportunity, take it, go forward. Please support Gunawira if you can. We're looking at doing other webinars. So if anyone's got any interests or any areas that maybe they would like to hear me talk about, message them through. I'm more than happy to be able to do. So we're actually going to go in and maybe talk about traditional art and the semiotics of art. So how the art is the language written. Go in and talk more about medicine, because I just barely touched on the medicine with some of these. Yeah. Any comments, any questions? You're all good? All right. So Kylie is asking, is it possible to take a picture?
Yes, that's right.
Nobody has an issue with
No.
Kylie? All right. Silence is acceptance. So yeah.
Thumbs up.
Cool. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I will probably, when it goes up online, we'll link in the cookbook. There's a lot more